following program is intended for a mature audience. Viewer discretion is advised.
This I've got to see.
It's worth watching, so stay tuned.
Oh, yes. Welcome to the C-Note Show, Friday, April 23rd, 2021. We were just listening to some Korn, and Cynthia said,
I listened to broccoli.
yes. And if by broccoli you mean some sexual innuendo, then yes, I love it when you listen to broccoli.
Yes.
Absolutely. Good to see you. Jason's here, Jordan's here, Leandro, Bernard. Oh, yes, your man starting to rise in the world on Friday. Today, Cynthia's sexcapade spot. Tune her. I'm having a hard time reading. Tune her up and unleash the music, quote unquote. Oh, that's so clever how you put quotes around music. Look at that. Does she know that her dress is completely falling? Tune her up and unleash the music, Cynthia's sexcapade spot. About the last 10 minutes of the show. I don't know if I said that already because I'm enthralled by piano, by the pianist. By the pianist, exactly. And I don't mean Bradbury because he's a pianist as well, but that's for a different show. Oh, my goodness. Let's jump into our Staircase of Courage question for today. This is the participation section of our program. All right. That means you're going to type as long as you're not playing piano topless right now, because we all know that Patrick, that's exactly what he's doing at 5 a.m. in New Zealand is playing piano topless. As long as you're not doing that, you have no excuse to not punch this into the chat. So punch this into the chat right now. Everything we do here is to move you forward day to day. This is your daily renewal of belief and thought here in the C-Note Show. Bring power to your life, truth, power, and love into your life. So here's your question. How are you deepening your kingly energy today? Your grounding today? Your belief in the direction of your life? The belief in your purpose today? How are you deepening your kingly energy today? We've been unfolding King energy this week, and we will as well. Not next week, because Rob, Andy, Jason, our three coaches in Great Men Move Mountains, are going to be subbing for us next week as we're in Columbus, Ohio. We're flying out Sunday for a full week to go visit guys out there. May 1st, by the way, if you're seeing this, hearing this before Saturday, May 1st, 2021, we're meeting in Columbus. So hit me up, hit Dennis Collins up. The two of us are going to be out there and pushing 8 or 10 guys, something like that. So yeah, we might have to cap out. Actually, I don't know how many are going to fit in the steakhouse and in the bar afterwards. I have to look up what the number limits are in Columbus right now. So Cynthia and I are going to be out of town next week, and Jason Bradbury, Andy Malloy, and Rob Piotrowski are going to be hosting the show. And the following week, we'll do another week of King energy. So right now, how are you deepening your King energy today? Let's go ahead and jump into a what would you do. I've got one that's a little bit longer and one that's about medium, a little bit shorter. So let's go with a little bit shorter one first. It says, hi, brothers. Just want to share the below with you. I'm clear on the fact that right now, our relationship with my wife is not what I want. She's declared to have no romantic interest in me, and that is against my principle of being with a woman that does not want to be with me as a person, and not for other reasons, like mainly the kids. So here's something I want to talk about. He says, she's declared to have no romantic interest in me, and that's against my principle of being with a woman that does not want to be with me, aside from basically just the kids or other reasons, like I would assume financial or security, right? That's against his principle. I also want my kids to have a healthy parenting relationship as an example, and this goes against that. Meanwhile, I've recognized the behaviors that have contributed to the current state of our relationship and intentionally have forgiven her own actions. This is like, even in my voice, it reads like a little bit like a textbook. I'm just feeling that right now. Meanwhile, I have recognized the behaviors that have contributed to the current status of our relationship and intentionally forgiven her for her own actions. I recognize that trust is not there on both sides right now, but I know that this time around I'll be okay whatever happens. I still love her and believe we could create a new relationship as the 1.0 version is over. Since this does not seem to be in her intention right now, and she wants us to be roommates, I'm contemplating separation or divorce. I am now working with the guilt of splitting the family and our kids having divorced parents. Any input you have is welcome. All right, gentlemen, he's asking for any input that you have. So unmute yourself. Come on in. Here's the Jeff shuts up part of the show. Come on in.
I'll come in. I'll kind of weed through the mud there and just really call him on shit and say, well, I mean, he's got to move out, really. If it's his boundary and he wants to show a point, I mean, it's do something different, right? And if he's either, because I mean, he's kind of saying it's a boundary maybe there, but it's not quite clear. And if he wants to be someone that wants him, obviously, I know that, John Weiland and David Data, someone pick a partner that chooses you, right? So, that wants you. So if she doesn't want him, then, maybe he's got to give her some space, and moving out might be that way to, build that attraction again to have a relationship point 2.0.
Yeah, Chris, I hear you. Let me ask a question about that.
Sure.
I mean, I'm not agreeing or disagreeing right now. I want to see what everybody says, what all you guys say. That's definitely an option, right? So let me ask a question. Do you think that he's newer to this work, or he's been around this work for a long time? Because I can't quite tell.
Right. To me, that's kind of where I'm at. I just, that would be my first step is like, obviously I'd have to talk to him, but to me, he sounds like he's new just because he doesn't really have clear boundaries. And it's kind of like, that's why I was kind of trying to dig through the mud. It's kind of, to me, it wasn't quite clear what he wants. So, maybe getting clear on that. And, but I think, some of the stuff he does want to work on, maybe stepping back or, moving to a different room or doing something different, would be a way to kind of start the process for him to, to give her space, give himself some space and work on him. Right. Gotcha. There's no context to know how much he has been working on himself. So I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Just kind of calling out on what he said there, whether, he wasn't very direct, but,
Yeah, exactly. I agree 100% with everything you just said. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. Walters, thanks for raising your hand. Coming in. Thanks, Chris. Walters, coming in, bud.
Hello, guys.
Hey, good to see you.
Yeah. I mean, I think you kind of just picked up on what I was going to raise, because it sounds to me from listening to that it's, and I may be wrong, that it's someone that seems quite new to this work. And my question to the gentleman would be, is he at the place where he can perhaps make such declarations? Is he in the other place in the relationship where he can make such declarations? And I think, in my view, it would only be if you can answer that question firmly, then you can get to that point where you can say, okay, it's time for me to move out. I don't want to be with someone who doesn't want to be with me. But I would only say, make those decisions only when you are convinced that you have done what needs to be done with yourself. Because in my experience, the women would make those declarations because that's where they are at the moment. That's what they are feeling at the moment. And if you are coming to it from, if he's recognizing the mistakes or the things that he's done wrong in the past, if he can answer the question that he has done everything possible in his capacity, then I would say he should go for it. But it doesn't sound to me like, from listening to that he is just quite there yet. But
I totally agree with you. You have a really good feeling, Walters, for where this guy is. I want to ask you about how you relate to this, you personally, here in a second. But I agree. It kind of feels like these broad, sweeping decisions. He's almost talking himself into what he thinks he has to do right now, like divorce or separation right now, is what it feels like. I mean, maybe he's been doing this for 2 years and this is just kind of a cold post and he's just putting it out there to declare. But I agree. So how do you relate to this, Walters? Did you feel like that at the beginning? Okay, I need to divorce right away, or how can you relate to what this man's going through?
I felt like that when I hadn't started doing any of this. Because for me, I don't know about the other guys, but for me, understanding is very important. If I have an understanding of what is going on in the background, it makes a huge difference to me how I show up and how I respond to a whole range of things. That is how I was thinking before I even came to this. But as soon as I started having that understanding, and I realized that I had to focus on myself and doing a lot of improvements on myself, there were moments where I felt the frustration. You still feel the frustration as you're going through those moments. You still feel that frustration. You still feel like this just needs to stop. Yeah. But if you just carry on being grounded, it's not easy, and just carry on being grounded and carrying on showing up as the man that you really want to show up. And then when the time arrives, you would recognize it because of how you are going to be able to project your voice when you say those things. And that is exactly what has happened to me. And I went through that period helped by the fact that we had there was no physical touch or anything of that nature for 6 months. I was helped by that fact. And it allowed me throughout that time to really, really rebalance my relationship to the point where I was able to say those things, to say, well, I've given you the space, I've given you all the time that you need to try to make progress. If you still think after this time you are still exactly where you are, then I would rather we move forward together. But if you are not prepared to, this is the vision that I have for myself and for us. And with a woman who was feeling like she couldn't do anything a few months back, the fact that she is still there, the fact that she is still with you shows that she wants to be with you. She probably just doesn't know what is going on and doesn't know how to handle it. And when I said that, and I basically presented a choice, gave her options to decide. Not like an ultimatum, but I gave her options. Your options is, this is how you're feeling, you have two choices. You either want to be or you don't want to be. Which one do you want? And if you want to be, this is how we have got to do it. It doesn't mean that it's going to happen overnight, but we have to make a commitment to ourselves. We are going to work towards it. And that's how it worked for me. Yeah.
Yeah. And for guys that don't know you, Walters, right? So you gave her lots of space first. So if you catch the guys up that don't know you, catch them up real quick on you. And then where are you now? We haven't spoken for a little while. So where are you now?
Yeah. I mean, oh God, I'm thinking, I mean, it was just around about this time last year. But of course, before then, I've been going through a lot of struggles with myself, trying to really scratching myself, wondering what was going on, because I thought I was doing everything right. But then I was getting the complete opposite reaction, the complete opposite response. So it started with me, my wife saying, oh no, she felt having sex with me felt like a chore. And she's kind of alluded to something like this previously, but it never really registered with me. And the way she said it at that point, she said it with empathy, and I felt something. And that really set me on the path to try to find answers. And that is how I came to this work. That's how, first of all, I found Steve, and then I came, and then with you, Jeff. And I just, after that, having that realization, I said, okay, you want space. How long do you want? We can go on that space. I didn't think I could do it. I didn't think I could go for a week without having sex. I didn't think I could go for 2 weeks without having sex. It was a struggle for the first month, for the first 3 months. But trust me, after that, I was fine. I learned a lot about myself in that time. I learned that I was okay. I learned a lot about what it meant to have sex, because I was using sex, like I think most of us were, as a form of validation, because as she kept running away, when she gave me sex, I was like, okay, that means we're cool. And I realized in that time that had to stop. So I basically stopped. We were still in the same bedroom, but as I kept struggling, I basically asked her, if I can't touch you, if we are living in the same room, we're sleeping on the same bed, and I can't touch you because for whatever reason, you might as well move into the guest bedroom. I said it, she felt offended by it, but I stood I felt terrible. I mean, the nice guy in me felt terrible saying that initially, but I stuck with that. And that is how we lived for at least 4 months in separate rooms, but doing everything still together. In that time, my focus was really on myself, how I was showing up, being grounded, pouring myself into the different things which I kind of ignored for the last couple of years, and but also really learning to treat her with compassion, having a lot more compassion, treating her with kindness, and really learning to appreciate her more than I had ever done at any point in my life. That was despite her not sleeping with me. And that happened. We gave ourselves 6 months. And at the end of the 6 months, she said, oh no, I'm still exactly where I was 6 months ago. When I made a decision, I didn't know COVID was going to hit and blah, 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 blah. I said to her, well, when you made a decision, I told you, do you want us to, when I was struggling, I told her, do you want us to reconsider? Because when we made a decision to go to take a break, COVID wasn't around and COVID is making things very tough for us. Do you want us to reconsider? You said, no, you've made a decision. So that's fine. I said, so when you made a decision 6 months ago, I told you about COVID. You said, no. So where are you now? She said to me, I'm exactly where I was 6 months ago. I said, okay, that's fine. If you're exactly where I was 6 months ago, I wouldn't pretend to tell you that I am not disappointed. I am disappointed. It would have made a huge difference to me if you had said, well, I am exactly where I am, but I'm making an effort. So, and I basically presented her with 2 options because I am not prepared to continue to live the way we are living. So these are the choices that we have. When people get into our positions, they have 2 choices. You either make a commitment to do things differently and move forward, or you agree to move your separate ways, accepting that it's not going to work. And those are the 2 choices that we've got. You don't have to give me a decision now. Take a week and we'll talk about it next weekend and think about it. And I just carried on. I wasn't upset. I wasn't anything. The next week, I asked her, have you made a decision? She said, yes. I've decided that we are going to continue. And that we should start all over. That's how she put it, that we should start all over and begin again as a new, we're starting afresh. I said, thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that. And I didn't say much after that. And since then, it's really been me really focusing on myself, being grounded, avoiding the relationship discussion because there's really nothing to talk about, and just focusing on being the person that I always wanted to be, but didn't really know how to be it. So yeah, that is where we are. And things are really settled between us. The way we approach the sex is gradually getting there. The way we approach it is not where it needs to be, but it's not like it was in the past where it became like obligatory and that kind of thing. So it's gradually but on a relationship level, we are really settled. We are getting on very well with each other. We're relating with each other. And she is much more relaxed because at one point, if you remember, Jeff, she told me she was anxious. She was afraid being in the same room with me. She felt, and that came to me like, it was really shocking to me because I didn't know that at all. Mm-hmm. But she feels a lot, even the way she sleeps on the bed is different. Wow. She's relaxed and everything is just really different. But that comes from being consistent and just keep trying, which is not easy, but just keep trying. I still occasionally get triggers here and there. Yeah. But with the techniques that one is learning here, you learn how to recognize those triggers and respond to them in the way you need to.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful, Walters. Yeah, you've got props in the chat like, yeah, move that mountain, brother. You're a badass. Absolutely. Walter's so good. Let me ask you one question that this man said about, feeling guilty if he had to make the choice to divorce and break up the family. So he may not be ready, right? And I love how grounded you were after those 6 months of working on yourself and putting the options on the table and being grounded about that. You weren't all fearful about it. You were grounded and gave her the choice. Yeah. And led in that choice. I love that. So how did you deal with the potential guilt of, all right, I may need to make the decision to split up and therefore it affects the children. How did you deal with the guilt of that? Because that seems to be one of his difficulties in this post.
Yeah, yeah, and I think he mentioned something in his in the post that I mean that was terrifying, to be honest. But at one point, I said to myself, and I think I told my wife this at some point, that look, I certainly the way we because. I think I gave some of the examples. My 5-year-old daughter recognized what was going on. She could see the tension. She was saying things. She would tell the mom, "Oh, come on, mom, kiss daddy," that sort of stuff. And she would say, "No, it's okay. You can do it. It's not scary. I can show you how to do it." Because she was saying it.
Oh my gosh.
She could see how much she was resisting any of those beats for affection and those sort of things. And I told her at one point that, look, you may worry about the children, you may worry about anything, all the different stuff, and I worry about them too. But being in an environment that is devoid of any love, affection, is just as bad as having the children grow with the two of us apart. And I certainly don't want my children to grow up in an environment where they think that it's okay to withhold affection, to withhold love, to withhold all the things that are necessary. And I said that to her. And it's just as bad. I think it's even worse than us being separated. And as hard as it is, as much as I don't want that to happen to my children, you have to weigh the risk and compare it. Which one is better? Yeah. And that is, I presented the options to them. So I came to a point where I had to make that choice. And I think, given my experience, I certainly don't want my children to grow up in an environment where it's devoid of all this sort of affection. And I think it's just as bad as, or it's even worse than having them live in separate homes. And that's how I did it. So I became comfortable with the idea. It's not something I would want, but I became comfortable with it.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. Thank you for that. Leandros is asking, how do you control your expectations? How do you control your expectations now going forward?
That's a really interesting question. How do I control my expectations? I really don't have any expectations at all, which is a complete turnaround from where I was previously, because I had expectations about who I wanted her to be, and I've learned to just accept her for who she is, to see her as the flawed person that she is, and I appreciate that. So I don't really have any expectations. Whatever comes to it. But I where she crosses the line, where she crosses a boundary for me, I've made it a point. I'll tell her whether she likes it or not. Rather than engage in a back and forth with her as maybe I would have done in the past, I will say it, and that is it. She would go back and forth with me, and I've done that. She would go up and try to talk about it, but I've made a point, and I'll just leave it at that. And usually, even though she wouldn't acknowledge that she has, or she's heard what I've said, quite often you would notice a change or some adjustments that are being made.
Beautiful, like fucking home run. This Walters is phenomenal, guys. Yeah, Richard said, "Love it, Walters." Walters, you're knocking it out of the park, buddy. To a T. I love it, absolutely. So good. Anyone want to chime in on this, Walters? That was fantastic, buddy. I appreciate it. Good to see you. I'm glad things are going well. Thanks for jumping in. Good to see you, buddy. Anybody else want to chime in on this? Otherwise, I'm going to step forward. Cool, perfect. So I've got another post from the forum where a man is giving 3 paragraphs of what he considers sage advice. He's been researching a particular doctor of intimacy. She has some. She's certainly a doctor, but she has some kind of funky title like intuitive sexual intimacy coach or something like this, on top of being a psychologist. And so I want to read the 3 paragraphs this man posted from this Dr. Jennifer Rhodes. I think she might be a psychiatrist out of Boulder. I'm not certain. But he says, "Hey, man, I recently read an article by this Dr. Jennifer Rhodes, and she seemed to encapsulate so much of what I've had to work on in 3 simple paragraphs. It really struck me, and I wanted to share it with you all. This growing we are involved with is sometimes no cakewalk, which she acknowledges for sure. What can we do to help all of us heal our insecurity? What does help is being in the presence of a grounded person who has regulate their emotions. We all need mentors and examples of people who have figured out this emotional well-being dance. Right? And that's what Walters is talking about. Let me come back here for a second. Walters learned that she's not a man, right? She's not going to act like a man. She's not going to have the logical compartmentalization like a man. She's not going to rationalize like a man. And you're not a woman. You're not going to act like she is as well, with covert expectations, if you will, and more. It's the emotional dance and everything being one big soup of emotions, and she may not be able to compartmentalize as you are. Is that fair to say?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Okay, so treating her like you want to be treated is not exactly the golden rule. We need to understand in masculine, feminine polarity and in relationship that she's not like you, right? That you need to learn how to dance with her feminine flow, the tide of what she's experiencing. And that's a piece of what Chris and what Walters were feeling about the poster, is that it doesn't seem like he's really on the wavelength of the woman to even make the decision to divorce yet. And I would agree with that. So this is going on to kind of validate that and give us some more on that. This emotional well-being dance. We all need to see people who have learned to parent themselves rather than rely on other people. It's only in the context of seeing emotional security that we can begin to understand what our personal journey needs to be in order for us to bring the mind, body, soul, and heart back into alignment. The kicker of this whole issue is that in reality, we do not have to talk about our feelings to have intimacy or heal our insecurity. Hallelujah. That's what Walter said too. You don't have to talk about it. The energy of someone who has been on their healing journey for a long time speaks for itself and often naturally leads to the safety required to talk about emotions. For an emotionally avoidant person to heal, they need to first feel the safety through energy, not in words. We have to honor and respect everyone's journey and their healing, their process of healing. We don't have to like it, and we don't need to necessarily spend time with people who trigger our fear and wounds before we are ready to deal with them. Okay, so this is, again, you probably need some space during this time. I know Chris has talked about that. Jason's talked about that. All of us have talked about, you can say you need to take space, that you're going to think about it, that you're going to take a walk or meditate on this, and you'll get back with her. Often that's by far the best thing to do in that moment. It goes on to say, we do, however, have to stop the victimization mindset and the spiraling of our own fear. Being with someone who is emotionally avoidant is the golden opportunity to incorporate your emotional regulation and spiritual skills in the real world. It's highly advanced work, and it's okay to walk away from that work if you do not feel ready or it feels wrong, but it does not give you the right to blame someone else for being a horrible person. Wow. Right? Just because you feel uncomfortable or not ready does not mean it's the other person's fault, and doesn't give you the right to blame them for being a horrible person. Emotional intelligence is not telling someone they're horrible. It's meeting them where they are, and sometimes the person we love is not emotionally where we wish they were. If you truly want to help the avoidant person, you have to help yourself. You have to learn to regulate your emotions so that the other person has to actually deal with their own issues. No matter which way we look at this situation, getting angry and blaming an avoidant person doesn't get us anywhere, and certainly doesn't motivate them to seek support to learn new ways of being in the world. At the end of the day, your work on your anxiety will open up new opportunities either with your current partner or perhaps with a far more emotionally secure partner. Walking your path is never a bad investment. We simply have to stop getting distracted by other people's behavior. Right? Easier said than done, but beautiful words. I love it. I'm going to ask Jason to come in. I saw you nodding. I can't see everyone's camera when I'm reading, but I saw you coming in there. What hit you in that passage, Jason?
Well, I spend a lot of time on a lot of relationship forums and stuff online. And the big, the new narcissism, if you will, in other words, the new buzzword that everybody's using out there is they're all digging into, attachment theory. And my husband is schizophrenic attached, whatever they want to call it. And always putting that blame on them. And the reality is that is just what she said. Okay, so what is the opportunity in the situation? They're being avoidant. They're hiding in their own cave. You know what? They're dealing with something. Learn how to regulate yourself, which is a tough thing to deal with sometimes. But this is really where, especially our work as a man, that is masculinity in essence. Not being stoic, not stuffing every emotion down, but learning how to have those emotions and to regulate them. To be pissed off is all get out and still be able to breathe and say, that made me angry. Or I'm experiencing anger, which is an even better way to say it. Give me just a second. Okay, I see the point. Let's talk about this. Instead of blowing up and throwing things and all that kind of stuff. Women can do the same work. It's you're not a victim, and I think that's the main point of her paragraphs there, and I love it because it really puts a lot more power really where it can be, because you can't control somebody else.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you, Jason. Yeah, you're not a victim. So you, man, I'm talking to you right now. You know, you guy that's tuning into this right now, it may feel that way. You may have been set up by cultural expectations, your family or religious expectations to do A, B, C, and you're supposed to have a perfect life. But that's what this work is. The nice guy covert contracts don't work. It makes her feel trapped, and it makes her feel like you don't actually care about her, just what she's going to give you in return. You know, your rewards as that nice guy. So let me ask you about some of your background in family systems theory, for instance, right? So if the man takes a step back, turns his shoulders, as we teach, and works on his own self, what happens for the other person to, I'm not going to see it exactly, but allowing them to feel and work on their own stuff as you take a step back and turn your shoulders? Not that you're ignoring them, or, you know, not that you're running away, but you're taking space, you're giving. What happens in that dynamic within that dance?
Yeah, that dance and that dynamic in family systems, they call like triangulation. So any kind of pressure that either person in a relationship is pressure, anxiety that's being bound by, that's being almost released and pushed down by that dynamic, can't be released until someone changes, until someone starts to shift the tide. And I really, really appreciate what she said in that article, that when you are willing to be courageous and kingly and shifting that dynamic, you really are taking away the band-aid for both of you. And that other person has to start to feel some of their own emotions and their own projections when you're no longer willing to play.
By necessity, right? So if you take one corner out of the triangle, by necessity, she has to feel that.
Yeah. And so it's, I would often say this to men, even men who feel some guilt and shame about like, oh, I wish I had known now. I wish I knew what I knew now in the past. And they carry some bricks with them. Like I could have been better. I could have shown up better. I could have been more kingly. And this dynamic now, I feel the guilt they carry from that. Well, that other person in your life has played into that dynamic as well. And that doesn't make anyone bad or wrong, but we all come into relationship with stories and feelers for that kind of triangulation and dynamic. So no one person carries the weight of that. It's been created and mixed together with two people. And so King sees that from the big picture, knows that, you know, each person's going to be okay if he starts to change this energy between them and takes that step into a new landscape, knowing that even with what Walter said, like his wife doesn't sometimes acknowledge what he says, but then he still sees shift and change. That's like the perfect example of how these wonderful, subtle currents beneath our relationships are affected by each other and really do create change.
Yeah, 100%. What you do is going to create ripples in your relationship. And this one is sponsored by Walters. Here's the 3 minutes of motivation that I love. No excuses on a Friday. Here we go.
What's stopping you? Are you too tired? Didn't get enough sleep? Don't have enough energy? Don't have enough time? Is that what's stopping you right now? Don't have enough money? Is that the thing? Or is the thing that's stopping you, you?
Excuses sound best to the person that's making them up. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Get off the pity potty. Telling everybody your sad and sob stories, trying to get people to show up to your pity potties and your pity parades. If you ever see me in a Rolls Royce, a 6 or 7 star hotel, living my life to the fullest, don't get jealous of me, because I worked my ass off to get it. Nobody handed me nothing. Wake your ass up. Awaken the beast inside. It's game on. It's go season. It's time for you to take advantage of the access and the resources that you have in your country and your community. You got a problem with your life. You got a problem with your environment. Do something about it. If you want it, go get it.
Recognize the excuses are not valid. They're conjured up, they're fabricated, they're lies. And how do you stop the lies? You stop the lies with the truth. And the truth is, you have time. You have the skill, you have the knowledge and the support and the willpower and the discipline to get it done.
The fruit of everything good in life begins with a challenge. Everything is a pill that's worthwhile. And it's not going to come to you, and it's not going to fall in your lap, and it's not going to be something that, oh my God, it just was so simple. It's always going to be difficult.
If you want it, you gotta go get it.
This is your chance. This is your shot. This is your moment. This is your time. This is your place. This is your opportunity.
This is my time. This is my moment. Tomorrow. Ain't no such thing as tomorrow. We only got today. It's your dream. If you want it to happen, get your butt up and make it happen. If you want it to happen, rise and grind.
You still got work to do. Stay on that basketball court. Stay on that football field. It's grind season, homie.
Oh yeah, you gotta love a couple minutes of motivation. It's lion time. It's grind season. Yeah, it's grind season. Fuck yeah, gentlemen. You're doing the work here. That's why you're here, for this daily increase of your knowledge and your belief and your thought. And I'm going to share a couple of paragraphs from David Data's Way of the Superior Man. I also want to honor Walters again. He put in the chat, he's listening to Alison Armstrong's Understanding Women. Phenomenal audio. Alison Armstrong is absolutely incredible. She used to be a teacher, and now she's been a coach for over a decade, I believe. Alison Armstrong is a great one. Well, here's another excerpt from David Data's Way of the Superior Man, which I recommend every single guy in his top 10 books read for sure. Once a year is what I've been doing over the past 5 years. A few new paragraphs. When you can simply be with your body and with your woman, fully present without pulling away into your head of separation, then the boundaries begin to dissolve in the openness of your loving. So this is about level 3 relationship, right? This is advanced work. This is what it feels like and sounds like. When you can feel through your woman and your body, they become as if transparent, and the source of radiant substance of existence becomes obvious through them. So again, your feelings of love they're not targeted at your woman's body. They're targeted through her and into the world. Right? She's not the focus. It's through her and with you on this journey. Your natural gesture in this revelation of transparency is service. There is nothing to do but dissolve in the giving of your gift. And Walters beautifully articulated that today. Your woman may not want to receive your gift. Your woman may resist your gift, and so may the world. But you have no choice. Live at your edge. Love as fully as possible. Let your body be erect with the energy of your deep source, and take full responsibility for giving whatever love you have realized to the world and to your woman. Both will seem to refuse you and seduce you until you can feel through them. Feel through your woman and the world and die in the giving of your gift. Again, it's sort of synonymous with there's no finish line. You're not pointing at a finish line. You're pointing at the horizon, which never comes. You're pointing at the end of the rainbow of your purpose in this moment, today, this week, this month, this decade, whatever amount of time it is. If you're on fire about that thing today, that's fucking great. Fantastic. If tomorrow morning, when you wake up, you're wondering about that again, take a walk. Think about this, write about this, use the tools that we teach here daily. And I've got one more post before we get into Cynthia's Sexcapade spot for today. So this one's a little bit more, well, let me just read a bit of it and let me get your feedback, gentlemen. So what would you do? Where is this guy right now? What would you do if you were him? We've been married for 7 years, together for 12, with 3 young kids, 8, 5, and 3. I was working away from home 3 days a week since 2012 and have been working now from home since March of last year. So this has put a lot of pressure on my wife not having space like she did in the past. A few months ago, my wife said it's hard with me around 24/7. I took it as harsh that I finally don't have to work away and I get to finally be at home without getting the reality. After some pushing on the fact a couple of weeks ago from me, she said, I'm not attracted to you right now. You aren't leading or being the man of the house. I don't feel attracted to who you are. With some more pushing, she doesn't want to leave the kids or home. She wants time to see what happens, and due to my nature, have been on info gathering overload as well as action overload. At least he's aware of those things, right? I understand I need to evolve for me and independent of the outcome, which is really hard for me. I get it. I'm just still in the mindset of anything I can do to reattract my wife, I'll do. Okay, maybe you need to back away and not talk so much, right? That's hard. By the way, a lack of action is a decision. Okay, not acting, not talking, not pressuring her is a decision. I spoke to my wife today, probably hummingbird behavior, as Steve Forsman would say, and her answer to how she feels. Oh, this is the trap, right? The trap of how do you feel today? Or what do you want now? Or is anything different? Those are the hummingbird questions that just don't help, make her feel pressure. And her answer to how she feels and what's next is she doesn't know, she doesn't know, she doesn't know. I'm going to stop right there for a second. I literally told a man yesterday that and I'd love for your feedback in this because I'm going to say something a little bit on going out on a limb here, that in relationship or in emotions, women aren't going to be able to answer you like you want as a man of what do you want? So when you're asking a question as a man, what do you want? You're thinking that her brain is working like yours. And it does not. Please jump in. Please jump in. What are your thoughts on that? When a man asks a woman in a spot, especially when she's saying, I want space, I'm not attracted to you right now. Mm-hmm. And he comes back to her and says, well, what do you want? Mm-hmm. What happens for the woman in that intimate space?
The thing that hits me is that the want for her is actually so much deeper than what she has even said in the past, never mind trying to give you a logical answer in the moment. She may not even be aware of the deep ocean beneath her that is these kind of wants that are, I want to feel claimed, I want to feel safe, I want to feel seen, I want to feel heard, and trying to even put that into even knowing that she knows that. And then in the moment when you guys are talking about small details around the house and you know, things that really don't matter, I would imagine that she's trying to give you something logically, but nothing in her mind can really attach to something so deep and a craving so desirous, that she kind of like shuts down in the moment.
So I'll play this. Yeah, that's okay. Just give me some words to describe it. If he says that, what happens for you as a woman? I'm like, okay, this deepness, like what? Just use words. Tell me. If he's hummingbirding her, right? He's keeping asking these. So what happens for a woman when he says, well, just tell me the words?
She might actually kind of go blank in her mind, or freeze in her body, or even have anger that she doesn't know how to give you something that's going to solve the problem.
I'm gonna do it again. Okay, use words to tell me. She's just more shut down, more pissed, more blank, more you should already know this. I've already told you.
Yeah, and even like you're asking.
Yeah, that's what it's happening right now. It's actually happening, right?
Yeah.
You're like shutting down. You're not even able to answer that, right? Because that's exactly what she experiences.
Because right now you're asking me for feminine perspective to give what she wants. And because I don't even know what she's wanting, I don't even know how to answer you in a logical way.
Yeah. Well, so you did say it though. You said she wants secure safety and to be connected and all these. Those are the best words that even if she's aware of it, she may not have those words.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Okay, let's go and jump over to Sexcapade spot for today. Here we go. Yeah, you're a man starting to rise in the world today. Cynthia Sexcapade spot. Tune her up and unleash the music. I would love for her and you to unleash the music. It looks like this, right? That's what it looks like.
It does look like.
Oh my God, yes. Unleash the music, please.
So frustrations that might come up in relationship could be around the idea that you and your partner have moved forward. You and your woman have moved forward on things. You've had conversations. You feel like, gosh, like our relationship is 5 steps ahead of where it was last month or 6 months ago or last year. And yet sex and sensuality and our physicalness together, it feels like it hasn't quite caught up to where we are. And there's an energetic reason for that. And David Data would refer to it. It's the body is a denser energy than our thought process or even our emotions. So the body's kind of the last to catch up to things that have changed drastically and things that you as a king and a man have led in your woman. So there are ways with your partner, with your woman, with your wife to invite her body past old things that have happened, old thoughts, old beliefs, old freezing, and bring her fully into the present moment and the present sensuality, the present music with you. And so one of these ways that we can do this is imagining that when you're touching her, especially working with her clitoris, her vagina, her vulva, is that you are the conductor. You are strumming her strings and creating music out of all the energy that's there, whether it's things that are tense, whether it's things that have softened, and you're inviting the music, the fire, the water to strum through her body. And so there's 2 techniques I'd love to offer. And one is tugging and rolling. So to tug the clitoris, pull it quickly or gently away from the body by grasping the sides and tugging it back and forth. You can also move lower and tug the sides of the lips, keeping varied strokes from the top of the clitoris down to the lips. To roll the clitoris, start by holding it firmly and rolling between the thumb and the index finger, kind of like you're making a tiny violin motion with your fingers. And another way to move energy in her body to bring her into the present with you is to push and pull and tap. So push down on the clitoris and make small push and pull strokes, and then slide your finger down the shaft to the clitoris. Do this on both sides of the shaft. Then using one or more fingers, tap the clitoris in varying rhythms from fast to slow to learn what the body responds to most. So these were like how to play the energy between her legs like a violin. But again, these kind of tapping and pulling and stroking and tapping can be a way to bring other parts of her body into the present moment. Again, with the mindset that the body can be the last, and especially for a woman's emotional stores in her body, can be the last to kind of come on board, to realize that there's something really new and different and wonderful and changed in your relationship.
Yeah. And so okay, again, the guy's like, I can't even fucking go for a walk and hold her hand right now. So how can I utilize this if I'm at step 1 of the staircase of intimacy? So I mean, I love these ideas, Cynthia, that you brought forward. And so if you're having sex with your woman, this is phenomenal, right? So this is, but what would be step 1 for a man that's not doing any physicality?
If you're not even at the point of holding hands, I think it's holding and seeing her and being able to compartmentalize that where you are in the present moment. Again, her body might not be there yet. So you're just even kind of noticing her body language, taking in what you two might be talking about versus how close she's sitting with you on the couch. And just knowing that that physical piece sometimes is the last to come forward to you, and having compassion, if not reaching out in different ways that are really kind of strumming that physical part of her into music with you.
Yeah. And what you're talking about now is emotional intimacy as well, and what you have in your mind as a man. By the way, if you haven't gotten our 45-minute free audiobook that talks about the staircase of intimacy, dancing up the staircase from 0 up the stairs, there's emotional stairs and there's physical stairs, physicality. And if you're not leading emotionally, then the physicality is not going to come as well. So go to greatmenmovemountains.com/free audiobook to grab our free audiobook. Cynthia, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Yeah. So gentlemen, we're about out of time here. We've got 1 minute left. I'm going to share a 1-minute video from Like Stories of Old that came out today entitled Learn to Value Yourself. 60 more seconds on your Friday. Here we go.
Why is it that when it comes to our self-image, we so often value the opinions of others more than our own? How easily you hand over your mind to anyone who insults you, Epictetus pointed out. How easily too we attach ourselves to fame and validation, Marcus Aurelius added. When we depend ourselves on external things, our self-worth will rely on what we cannot control, and we will end up fearful, jealous, and suspicious. So learn to value your own opinions. Consider how, as Epictetus continued, you would fight for freedom if someone tried to control your body. And then ask yourself, why not fight the same way for your mind and self-worth?
Yeah, I love that you guys are here fighting for your mind and your own self-worth, believing in yourself. Walters, Jason, Bernard, Leandro, Matt, Hussein, Dave, Jordan, good to see you guys. Kent, JT, Randy, Richard, and Andy. Have a fantastic rest of your weekend if you're in New Zealand. Otherwise, have a great Friday and a great weekend.
Get more affection, love, and sex in your marriage. Get less paralyzing fear and rejection. Never miss an episode. Watch anytime, anywhere, 3 a.m. on the toilet. Get full episodes. GreatMenMoveMountains.com/VIP. The C Note Show.